task here, we do 5 things. I already upload the slide and the citation in the book already. So, and first for each paper here, each group we state the key research question in that paper. What is the key research question? What are the key research questions in the paper, and why answering these questions are important? So 2 slides. The first slide about the research question, and the second slide about why it's important. So it's a motivation for the paper, right? So you have to state the research question, and keep in mind that research question means that the question or the sentence is end by a question mark. So it's very clear research questions, and why they are important. And then the next slide we talk about the main contribution to the literature. So what are the contributions of the paper to the literature? And then we'll talk about data and illustratively. All these papers they use the experiment. So we describe a little bit about survey experiment or the illustratively to answer the question. And then you present the key results. And the last slide, we'll talk about what are strengths you find in papers and what are potential comments to keep from the paper. What the feedback you want to, and you might think that it would improve the paper, or if the paper is better, or what you find is the weakness of the paper. Okay, so yeah, all papers here you will make a slide to answer this question. And you have 15 minutes to do so, 15 to 18 minutes, so 18 minutes, that's like 18 minutes. And why 18, not 15 or 20? Because when I mentioned 18, it means that it should be very precise, that it's no more than 20 minutes. If I say like about 20, maybe it will be more than 20 minutes. 18 minutes, and we have 3 people per group, so each of you will present 6 minutes. So equally. So that is the first one. And you will present the exercise on Monday morning. And the second assignment here is the individual analysis using the ECP consumer expectation surveys. So tomorrow I will introduce data in detail for you, how to handle these data sets, but based on this data set, we answer 3 questions. And the first group, we answer the question about what to expect finance literacy, and should be centered on information of inflation expectation. So likely we will apply papers discuss what is going on financial disease, and should be centered on the formation of inflation expectation. Based on this one, we also can talk about the demographic like income and education as well. And the second group, we present about whether survey expectation with the theoretical system and request for clinicals and the Taylor group. So again, to the point you and we just discussed this morning, where people they understand what is Taylor group or clinicals, and we based on how they answer the question about interpret expectation, infer expectation, and economical expectation to test whether they form expectation with the consistent with the theoretical model really. Okay? And the last one, we estimate the intersample substitution in the ECD. So that is the parameter in the answer and the Euler equation. Yeah, so 3 groups. And the task here. Even last year I already mentioned the research question, more or less clear, but that in the presentation you have to restate it again. That is what is the research question in your group, and why they are important. Explain why it's important to study this topic. Here you don't have to give contribution to the security. And the data here, we all use the PCB survey question expectation, but for each group, we will use a different question in the survey, right? So you have to match what is the key question you want to use for the survey data. So you can show exact working for the question regarding the finance literacy, for example, or how to manage the central bank, for example, for the survey data. Right? Or what question about tailoring, like what is the key question to measure internet expectation or peak expectation or even growth expectation on the market. And the same thing for the estimation of user channel substitution here in the cities. And then you present key result. And the last point here, you have to compare the result with the printed literatures. And here I also mentioned which paper you can reference. For example, group number 1 about the formation of expectation to financial literacy, and in the central bank you can compare the result with the literatures about Fulmer and Mother Rama and Christie and co-authors about this topic. And the same for group number 2 and 3. So that's clear, right?
Sorry, so the assignment 1 is 15 to 18 minutes for assignment 2 is
The same.
same.
Yeah, also 15 to 18 minutes.
And so the assignment 1 is like we read the research paper,
Yeah.
and then we follow the tasks that are given to us. The assignment 2 is you giving us the data to replicate, and then we also follow the task.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
clear.
So in this paper 1 here, I already give you all the paper here already. I also have folder from the reference paper for you already. So I already download all the paper for you. And with the reference. It's a great assignment, and here is I just showed you, and the assignment reference here also paper you need for the paper.
Last question.
Yeah.
So, do we have to strictly follow the order that you outlined? Meaning, like, if for assignment 1 we are group 1, then assignment 2 we will we must be group 1 as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, to make it easy. Yeah, because everything is equally the same about the length and the equity. The challenging is the same. Yeah, so all the papers here I already downloaded as a reference folder for you already. And you have 15 minutes to 18 minutes, so that's like 18 minutes to present and how to make it. So, for example, the main contribution here, just highlight maybe 3 points maximum. Maybe they have more than 5 contributions, but here is main contribution, so just mention about 3 main contributions, for example. And key results here also 3 as maximum. Just apply the rule of 3. So 3 key points. Why they important? Those 3 main reasons. The main contribution, 3 main contributions as maximum, and 3 key main results, and strengths and comments. Maybe also apply the rule of 3. So to make it highlight the key point.
Last question, is this first come first serve? Choosing the topic, or will we?
Yeah, so you will form 3 groups, and I will tell you who will be in group 1 or 2 or 3. Because it's equally the same, so you don't have to decide which group you want. So study, for example, group number 1, to study the impact of finance literacy and ensure the central bank of the information of inflation expectation.
Okay.
So it means that we just request the inflation expectation on finance literacy and check the central bank to see the magnitude of the effect. And tomorrow I will introduce you to the survey, the ECB surveys, and how to handle the surveys. So the first step you have the, how to do the survey, right? And so as the select the variable for the survey, good variable with the financial literacy, central bank, for example, and so answers one big question and then you present it down. So it's not so difficult, but you have to do some work with the data and review the result and interpret the result and compare the result with the literature. Yeah. So you answer this question and then you compare the result with this paper. For example, group number 1, you will compare the result with these 2 papers. So everything's already available for you to just need to play with the data a little bit and then you read this paper very quickly. So just maybe just for this paper, you just need to read the introduction of that paper. It's a modeling app because in the introduction of the paper, they already mentioned about what are the key results of that paper, and then you just refer where the result is consistent or inconsistent with the literature. Okay? So it's very quickly, so you don't have to read the full paper about strategy and how they estimate the things and the result, but the key result or the key message of this paper where it's consistent with your results. Okay? Any question?
So when we
this one
which
is
group
the-
we belong to? So when will we know which group we belong to?
Even that. Yeah, so now we have 3 groups already, right?
Yes.
So group number 1, it's you, no, not group number 1, but now we have 3 groups.
Yes. 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3.
Yes.
Yeah. 3 and
1, 2, 3.
yes. Okay. So maybe each group we give 1 person to pick up. I don't know.
Bóc đi mấy đứa. Bóc đi, thầy cho giấy để bóc.
Đấy, không sao hay gì.
Hội đồng nữa này.
Không phải số 4 là
Số 1 là cái này không? Xong rồi chưa?
So group representative 1, 1 and then you have 3, right? So those 3 to pick one.
Tôi thấy thầy chia sẵn. Số 1. Rồi xong ấy, số 1 rồi. Mình số 3. Nổi không chị? Nổi không?
Okay, so now you know which group you are, right?
Chị chỉ bóc thôi, còn
Actually, it's equally the same. So,
sao mới nổi? Em nghĩ số 3 thú vị hơn.
So now you know about your group and your class. Any other question? Yeah. So assignment number 2 will be presented on Monday as well, but in the afternoon. So on the morning we present the first exercise, and in the afternoon we present the second one. Maybe one last thing regarding the schedule. So my plan is that we will present the term papers here on Friday, 16th of January, but I just realized that I have an appointment on Tuesday, so whether we can move this one either to Saturday or Sunday is okay for you, or even Monday on the 18th or the 19th of January. I'm not sure if you have a class on January 19th or in the weekend.
No, the class. Oh, next week don't have the lab
Because
class.
I have an appointment on the 16th of January, I just know about my plan. I have an plan on the 16th of January, so I would like to change it either to the weekend, either Saturday, Sunday, or Monday.
Next Monday we don't have class.
There's no other class. Yeah, we don't have other class for the whole week after that.
Okay. So
The week is yours.
okay. So let's say on Monday, okay? So on Monday,
19th.
of January, so you have 3 more days to work on in the afternoon.
Thì từ 16
Yeah,
đến
from
19
2
có thêm thời gian đúng vậy.
to 5 p.m. So survey presentation will be on Monday, 19th of January, also from 2 to 5 p.m. Okay?
Yes.
It's clear for everyone. Okay, good. And on Monday, the 12th of January, we have some Q&A for the term paper. After 2 weeks, we work on the term paper. If you have any questions like to discuss, we can have the discussion.
You need to send the list of our group to you so that we will send the papers to each of the group individually.
I already group most papers in one folder.
Okay.
Yeah. Therefore, examples. Yeah, so in the assignment reference here, I already include all the papers here for you. Okay? Yeah, good. Okay, so now we go with our survey data set, survey is available for us. So now we introduce the survey data set and the difference between quantitative question and something regarding quantification. So some relevant survey data for us. We have professional forecaster, households, and firms. And professional forecaster, we have different surveys here, and for households, and we have also quite a lot of different survey from the Michigan Survey of Consumer Expectation. It's the oldest and famous, the most famous survey data about household expectation. But they go for the US, and survey of consumer expectation, recent survey from the New York Fed, and for the EU. We also have this one, and for UK, we have this household panel and DNB household survey for the Netherlands, and household finance and consumption network from ECB, and Bundesbank survey of consumer expectation consumer expectation survey that released the detail and different for job exercise. And for the firm surveys, here we also have quite a lot of surveys, but it's, in general, it's very hard to accept to the firm survey because it will have to do the confidential data. So the firm survey data is harder to accept. So that's why it the literature and the research on the firm survey data is less the research in the household survey data. But for the firm survey, we also cover in some discussion of the topic, using the median survey data or the survey data from the Bank of Italy, some survey in UK and Israel, for in detail data. So let's start with the first one, the survey of professional forecasters, and the SPF in the US. So it's conducted by Filler and Filler, FED. So it's a branch of the FED systems. And forecast here is conducted by private sector economists in business and the financial sector and the university research centers. So some professional forecasters here, and it's conducted by the Filler FED. And this is a quantity data in 1968, and the data collected by the FED in Filler from 1934. It was conducted by another institution, but from 1990 it was conducted by the Filler FED. And the data is publicly available for the mean, medians, cross-sectional dispersion, and also micro data as well. So this data is available to everyone, and also with the micro data, so you can see how professional forecasters they form expectation over time, the dispersion across professional forecasters and how it evolves over time. And here's the link already for you. You just click this link and it goes directly to the data sets. And the sample size for this one is around 30. So, and with the panel dimension, so around the size 30 here, it means that private sector economists in business, financial sector, and university research centers here, those in proposals around 30. So the sample size for this one is quite small because they are professional forecasters, so that's why the sample size is small compared with also so they can conduct 1,000 or 500 observations per month, but the sample size for professional forecaster in general quite small. So for example, yesterday when I presented this paper, and one professor also asked me about the professional forecaster and also with survey experiment. I think this, and Dr. Han also mentioned that the sample size of the professional forecaster in general is quite small, so it's very hard to make sure that it's randomized across the samples because the sample size is small. And now we can see that the sample size for professional forecaster in the US is very large country, but the sample size is around 30. And for some other country, like national country, like in Germany or in France, for example, the sample size is even smaller. So maybe just 16 or 20 professional forecasters. And for this survey, the input only quantitative macroeconomic expectation forecast because with the professional forecaster, it's quite clear about the direction where it increase or decrease for them, but because they are professional, so that we can ask likely about the quantitative question because we interested in the magnitude of the expectation and its important information. So we don't ask a qualitative question for professional forecaster and only quantitative. And we can ask them very complicated question like probability distribution forecast for annual inflation and GDP growth, and the probability of a recession as well. So here we can use question and the questionnaire with a very technical terms as well. So we can ask about recession and the likelihood of recession. That is very hard to ask for the household and for the lay person to understand this term, but for professional forecasters we can ask technical term and in details as well. Yeah. And for professional forecasters here, they can give projection quarterly over the next 5 quarters and annual projection for the current year of the product's last half of the perception and the next year projection and the quick events forecast as well. So here is those variables the forecast from GDP to corporate profit and housing's 3 months Treasury risk as well. So also variables is part of the professional forecaster variables in the survey. So it's quite large survey data set, and they ask many particular questions that is a household they to know about. For example, the household they or like person is happy for them to understand the 3-month Treasury risk, for example, or the Moody's a corporate bond yield. But yeah, for professional forecaster, they have full set of the information and the model as well. So yeah, this question is reasonable for professional forecasters. Yeah, and there's some further variables like GDP and its component, like different component of the GDP, more detail. Also for price levels, they also different definition for inflation from CPI and PCE, that is personal consumption expectation. And the long-term 10 years horizon forecast for CPI and economic growth. So the set that this survey data provide a rich set of the expectation about many variables from macroeconomics, but also financial issues as well. And in the literature, before we have also survey data, many expectation variables in the macro model they use from professional forecasters, and quite consistent with the idea of fully rational expectation, because the professional forecasters they have a kind of full set of the information, and in general, we can assume that professional forecaster is quite rational expectation. And for the ECB, they also have a professional forecasters, and here is a professional forecaster at ECB is for the whole euro area, and the estimate for the whole euro area, not for a single country as a single country member of the ECB. So they estimate for the euro area. And here's a link for the data, and you just click to this link and you go directly to the data. And the sample size here around 90, compared with the US, it was about 30. But here we have 90, but keep in mind that this is for the whole euro areas, and we have about 20 countries in the euro area, right? And the 90 here, and if you divide by 20 countries or 15 or 10 countries originals of the euro area, so it means that each country is about 9 or 10 economies on average. And if we now divide by 20 countries member, it means that each country does have about 3 or 4 economies or professional per country. And this survey also conducted quarterly, and by the ECB since the start of the ECB as well. So the ECB they start from 1990 micro data also available to everyone, and it also includes the quantitative forecast and quantitative probability distribution forecast and some point forecast with some underlying assumption. So in this survey, they also give some clear assumption, like in which condition for with some specific assumption what do you expect the future macroeconomic development. So they would, to make sure that everyone have all the same set of the information and condition. Yeah, and as I said, all the forecasts here are for the Eurozone, so there are no professional forecaster for single countries in the Euro area, like we don't have data for professional forecaster for Germany or Spain or France, but we just have a professional forecaster for the whole area. And here is a variable covered by the professional forecaster with NICP, but harmonized index of consumer price inflation. And the real GDP growth is important bit. And the assumption here, that is the assumption on ECB's main refinancing interface, that is policy interface set by the ECB, and oil price levels and exchange risk between the euro currency and against US dollar, and the labor cost trades. So they give some assumption about these main variables to ensure that all the professional forecasters, they have the same set of information. And for the origin of the forecast, is mostly a fixed event, so they ask about the current calendar years and the next calendar years and the years after that, and also with 4 to 5 years ahead. Yeah. And another professional forecasters also conducted at Consensus Economics, and just a link for the data. But this data is a private research company, and that's why it's very costly to have this data set. And even some central bank also they find that it's very costly for them to buy this data set for the central bank as well. So mainly it's for some financial institution, they use this data set for their work, because it's very costly to collect data from the Consensus Economics. So this is include about 700 economists each month, but it's a global survey. So they can make the forecast, professional forecast for a single country, like in Germany, I think also Vietnam as well, also part of the so it's a professional forecast for most of the country around the world, but it's not publicly available, and we have to pay to get it. But it's very, very expensive to get this data set. And forecast by the same forecaster for several countries. So, for example, in the US, they ask only the US economists about the US macroeconomic developments. But for the Consensus Economics, they do the same forecaster, like the German economists, but they not only make forecast for German macroeconomic development, but also for the French macroeconomic development as well. So they ask for a group of countries. And forecasting firms identifies and also only fixed event forecast for the exactly for the dimension of the time dimension. Yeah, and here is a graphical way forecast. For example, from ranging from economic growth, unemployment, inflation, interest rate, exchanges, and etc. So the countries and regions here, like all seven group of seven and Western Europe, Eastern Europe, Latin America, and US also. I'm sorry, Vietnam is not in this survey data. And they also have some special surveys as well, and it's covered for the foreign GNS forecast and the commodity forecast in energy and venture market. So here is some example for professional forecaster. Yeah, and another private survey, professional forecast, but only in the financial market. And we call that as a blue chip economic indicators and blue chip financial forecast. And it will be conducted by the financial market participants. And also private firm as well, and it's also expensive to achieve this data set. But only focus on the US economy and not Okay, so that is a professional forecaster survey, and if you're interested in this survey, I would suggest that just go for the publicly available data from the Finland web or from the ECB survey of professional forecaster position. Okay, so now we move to the survey of consumer expectation. Start with the University of Michigan survey of consumer is the oldest and the most famous survey of consumer expectation, and it's a large household survey in the US, and the microdata available since 1978. And this way, it includes about 500 households, and it's a relatively samples of the US population, and it uses a routine harmonization. So every month, about 40% of respondents are going to be re-interviewed after 6 months. So when they interview today, if someone is interviewed today, they have to wait until 6 months to be re-interviewed. And each participant can participate maximum 2 times, so no more than twice. And only 40% of respondents is chosen to be re-interviewed. It means that 60% of the sample is new and the first time respondents. And both aggregate data and micro data are obviously available, and it's very up-to-date data as well. I mean, I haven't checked at the moment, but normally, for example, today is at December, the data for October already available. So it's a very up-to-date survey, and the micro data also available immediately. So what is the content of the meeting survey of consultation? They ask both quantitative and qualitative macro expectation from 1 year ahead and also 5 to 10 years ahead about inflation, gas price, inflation, house price, inflation, and also qualitative macro like buying condition, unemployment, interest rate, inflation, and the attitudes about the future. For example, now it's good time to buy durable things or not, or now it's good time to buy a house, or now it's good time to buy a car. For example, that is the attitude condition. Yeah, and they also ask about qualitative and quantitative micro expectation on changes in personal and family income and household financial situation. For example, whether your financial situation today is better or worse compared with the last 12 months, or what do you expect about next year financial situation, whether it's better, it will be better or worse compared with today. And they also have a question about the same time that some certain events occurs, like characteristics like asset income, elevation, and so on. Yeah, so based on this survey, they can create some index of consumer confidence. If you think about consumer confidence in finance or in macro news, if this index is, can be created based on this survey question. And they also have some very interesting questions regarding news on EC's condition you observe. For example, in the last month or recently, if you heard any news or favorable news or bad news about economic conditions, or how to think about the government economic policy at the moment, if the government is doing a good job or bad job regarding to the economic policy, regarding to control or manage inflation and economic growth. So we can see the role of government economic policy on the formation of expectation. Yeah, so it's a very famous data and also available to use. And if you're interested in the micro data here also, this is very good data and very clean data as well. So they already collect the data, it's easy to access. And, yeah, you can download and work on that. And based on this survey, we also can answer quite a lot of questions in our box as well, because the main advantage of this survey is that it's a very long panel dimension, and the longest panel dimension so far we have from 1978 until now. So it means that it covers quite a lot of business cycles over time, over the past I think 50 years so far. So yeah.
Just sorry, just curious. Like say for example, if it's a panel for like 50 years, generally what would be the treatment if like during that time frame that people drop out or like disease or like something, they just
Yeah, because each participant in this survey can participate maximum 2 times only. So it's a rotating panel. So it's not panel dimension in the term that one person can participate as long as they want. So they can participate only 2 times as maximum, so there are no problem of attribution or dropping out of the survey. Yeah.
Doctor, how about after they take the first answer for the survey, then the second, because I mean after they take the first, they learn something. I mean they learn about the survey.
Yeah.
And they improve their answer in the.
Yeah. Yes, that's a very important point. There's a learning effect from the survey.
Yeah.
For example, the first time when they participate in the survey, they don't know much about inflation, for example, or they know nothing about inflation, but they still answer something, right? But after 6 months or next month, you ask again about what did you think about kind of inflation or inflation in the next 12 months. So the gap between the first time and the second time they participate to the survey, they now maybe pay more attention to news about inflation, right? And they have better answer about what is the current inflation rate or the future. So we will see the impact of how many times they participate in the survey on how people form inflation expectation, or how they answer the question about inflation or other macro variables. So we can control for how many times they participate in the survey. And actually we find that for the first time participant, when they answer about inflation expectation, the dispersion is very large, but if the participant for the second time, the dispersion is smaller, because now they get more information and they closer to the actual inflation rate.
Do people, I mean, do researcher they include the dummy variable to show that whether that observation is the second
Yeah,
response.
yeah, we know.
Oh.
Yeah, we know who are the first time and who are the second time. Yeah.
But do we include as like a dummy variable in the maybe regression to see the thing? But I think it's really kind of control variables.
Yeah. So yes, there's some discussion about the role of learning effect for those who participated in the second time. So there's some trade-off here. If we want to know how people they update the expectation over time, we need panel dimension, right? Otherwise, we cannot explore how people update information over time. But if we want to know about what is the repetitive average of those who for the first time participate in the surveys, it will be challenging for that, so it will have a negative impact on the quality of those who the first time participated in the survey. Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
But it's a good point that you mentioned about the learning effect for those who are second time or the third time participated in the survey. So in the data we saw that as well. Yeah. Yeah, maybe with after when we look at the survey data, with the data, we also can look at the impacts of how many times you participated in the survey on the quality of the answer. Yeah, good point. Yeah, and the next survey here is the consumer expectation survey from the new job fair. So here is the new survey data conducted by the new job fair in 2013. It also has a good sample of the US population and cross-section of about 1,300 households per month. So it's much larger compared to the recent survey of expectation. It's about 5 households per month. But for this one, it's 1,300 households. And also routine panel dimension, and households can stay in the panel for up to 12 months. So and up to 12 times as well. So it means that for this survey, the people they have the frequency that people participated in the survey is much larger compared with the recent survey of expectation, and they can have the monthly. They can participate in the monthly term and consecutively for up to 12 months. So we can see how they update the expectation from this month compared with the last month and the last few months up to the last 12 months. And the aggregate data and the micro data also available, but to the left. So the micro data here is, I think the left here is about 10 months or 11 months. So I just checked the most available data set for the new job ads survey. Here is the most recent data available is until the February of 2025. So the time left here is about 10 months, and the Michigan survey is about 1 or 2 months. That also an important thing that we need to consider as well. But in general, it also very good data set, and the question in this survey is more complicated compared with the Michigan surveys, but they focus on more on inflation expectation. And why? Because this survey conducted by the New York Fed is part of the central bank, and the central bank they care more about inflation, right? So they more question on inflation compared with the Michigan survey. They just have 1 or 2 questions about inflation. Yeah. So this survey they have more questions about inflation expectation compared with the Michigan survey, because they focus more on the central bank activity. And the questionnaires in this survey is covered from inflation, both price of gas, food, more dimension of the different items. And then unemployment in graduate stock market, tax, and employment income spending, and they include both point forecast and probability distribution forecast and percent chance of binary outcome. So I will solve the exact question for this one this afternoon when we look at the question in details and how we can make use of this question. And the forecast horizon here just from 1 year up to 3 years. Compared with the routine survey, it can up to 5 to 10 years of long-term expectation. But for the routine for the new job fair survey, just about 1 or 3 years. And the next one is Bundesbank survey approach expectation. It's very similar to the new job fair survey approach expectation, and not only for the German population, and it's conducted by the Bundesbank in 2019, and for the new job fair in 2013, and for the Bundesbank in 2019, so 6 years later. But the samples of this survey is large, so each week and each month they survey about 2,000 households, and they also include the household dimension as well. And the data here also available, but you need to register for the data. It's not available immediately, but we have to send out application to have access to the data. So there's some friction to get the data, but basically anyone can access to this data set, but just some registration, and so it takes some time. But the special features of this data set is that if they have regular call for proposal for adding some questions into the survey, so maybe in this survey we can have some questions. For example, paper like we said yesterday, my proposal is accepted by the Bundesbank, and they give me the chance to give 6 questions to the survey for some specific question along the core or question of the survey. So, and this one is free of charge. So, and in general, conduct a survey is somehow expensive, but if the proposal is accepted by the Bundesbank, we can actually up to 6 questions. So it's not too many, but I think it's a great opportunity for us to do so. And each year they open 2 calls for proposals, and this time they still have open call for that, and the deadline is the 18th of January. So maybe one of you can write a proposal for that, and maybe it could be fulfilled for the term paper as well. Let's think about that later. I can send you the call for proposal. And the next one is ECB Consumer Expectation Survey. And tomorrow we will work on this survey in more detail. And here's a link of data and conducted by the ECB in April 2020. And the first this data first include the 6 largest economies in the Eurozone in April 2020, and then in April 2022 they include the sample expand the sample to 11 countries in the Euro area, and it covers more than 95% of the GDP of the whole area and population of the whole area. So, and it's a panel dimension. The household can participate as long as they want in the survey. So you will see that some households they can participate up to 30 times or 40 times in the survey. And, yeah. So it's a panel dimension, and this point we also can learn, can study about the learning effect. That is how many times they participate in the survey can influence the quality of their answer regarding to macroeconomic variables. And the micro data here is publicly available and also very much up to date. For example, today is the example and the most available data set already up to the September of this year. So available and free of charge, no registration. So it's a great source of the information. So that's why I want to use this survey data set for our course and for our exercise. And one more, I think, incentive for you to work on good data set is because many professors and our program here is collaborating with good university in Frankfurt and in Germany. So that's why many professors are interested in this data set as well. So if you have some evidence or work on this data set, your supervisor in Frankfurt, for example, can understand about the data and the context and the national context as well, so they can give you more insights about your analysis and your papers. Yeah, so I think that is good data set for you to study. And actually, last year also one of my students was used this data set first for his term paper, and then we developed the term paper to become a master thesis, and also very good master thesis under the supervision of Professor Haniasos as well. I think that this is good data set. So last year I just